Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Artsbeat TV and radio here on Westfield Community Programming, Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach, and we're going to the Berkshires today, to the Berkshire Opera Company. There hasn't been opera in the Pioneer Valley of Western Massachusetts or Greater Hartford in a long time, since Connecticut Opera and Commonwealth Opera folded. But if you go west to the Berkshires, there's a vibrant opera company called the Berkshire Opera. They perform some of their bigger operas at the Mahawi Performing Arts Center in Great Barrington. And this year they're doing two different productions, one of which is a classic and the other one is an opera that you're probably going to want to learn a lot about because it's brand new. So joining us today, we have three members of the Berkshire Opera. And we have Jeffrey Larson, Sarah Myers, and Lisa Anderson. So when you talk, just wave when I say your names again, because sort of this looks like Hollywood Squares on Zoom. Well, we've got Jeffrey, so it's easy to see you. Lisa, wave.
Hi.
Hi. And Sarah.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning to all of you. First of all, tell me a little bit about how opera got to the Berkshires.
Well, I can speak to that. So our co-founders, Jonathan Loy and Brian Garman, were both working in New York City and were friends. And Jonathan has a long history with the Berkshires, and they decided to open up an opera company here in the Berkshires, and in 2016 launched our inaugural opera, Madame Butterfly, and it has been met with great acclaim, and we've grown a little bit each year to this year, where we are introducing our very first second stage production of Glory Denied.
Now, Glory Denied is an opera that I've read a lot about, and actually in researching it, I went to YouTube to see if I could find anything, and there are several excerpts from it, and a lot of the comments people are so moved by this opera because it hits a lot of different chords, and I didn't mean to use that in a way. But could one of you describe what the opera is and how it came to be and how it came to Berkshires?
Sure, I can talk about this a little. Glory Denied, this work by Tom Chiapullo, is based on a true story. It's based on a book by Tom Philpott that is an oral history of the Vietnam era through the words of Jim Thompson, America's longest held prisoner of war, who was captured in Vietnam in 1964 and was held for just 2 weeks shy of 9 years. So the opera follows Jim's story and the story of his wife, Alice, in the United States, faced with raising 4 kids alone. And the 4 singers in the cast of this opera portray these 2 characters at different parts of their lives. So one singer portrays younger Jim, one singer plays older Jim, and same with Alice, younger and older Alice. And one of the things that makes this opera so poignant is that these are real people, and the libretto of the opera, the words being sung by these singers, are their actual words for the most part of the opera. So it's a story of hope, it's a story of perseverance, of love, of 2 people living through one of the most turbulent times in American history. And I think that audience members can find something to relate to in each of these characters.
Now, when you say opera, or most people say opera, and I speak having worked at Wolf Trap in Washington, where there was a resident opera company, and then I worked for Houston Grand Opera when I was starting out in my career. You mentioned the word opera, and a lot of people are scared away by it, but when you mention musical theater, they seem to to go towards it. And Glory Denied seems to fall more on the musical theater thing, more of the serious, the sung through like a Sweeney Todd or Les Mis. It's not a group of people just standing holding spears and singing hour and after hour, but it's a very contemporary theme, contemporary music. What drew you guys to wanting to present this?
Well, this is an opera that has gained such popularity and such notoriety in the United States in such a short time. I think it was first performed in 2007. Since then, it's been presented all over the country at most of the major American opera houses, and the reception everywhere has been just singularly in awe of the dramatic power of this piece. I think, you mentioned musical theater. There's so many musical theater works that are in English, in the English language. That generally it's always performed in English here in the United States. And this opera is in English. There is a certain immediacy about listening to opera in English, seeing opera played in English, and a certain immediate understanding. I love the great operatic works in Italian, German, French, all these other different languages. They're beautiful, beautiful pieces of music. But in terms of this opera, Glory Denied, this will be the first opera fully in English that Berkshire Opera Festival will perform. And, there's a certain intimacy and I think immediate understanding that comes with a piece like this in English.
Yeah. Now, you're not performing this in a huge theater, but in a much smaller space. So my assumption is that you're going to give the audience a more intimate experience with an intimate opera. Where is the opera being performed? And you tell us a little bit about the people that are involved in the production.
Well, we're performing it at Bard College. It's at the Simon's Rock campus in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. And it's within that campus, it's in the McConnell Theater. And this is a theater that holds 350 people. Every seat is a great seat. It is an intimate theater, and I think it's so perfectly chosen for this opera because it is a more intimate opera. And I think the audiences are going to really get a lot out of it. I forgot the second part of your question.
Yeah. Who are some of the people involved in it? Sarah, we'll throw that one out to you.
Well, just to build upon the idea of intimacy, what I think is wonderful, in some ways we have a bit of a challenge in that we will have the orchestra on the stage, but this is a chamber opera, so it's not a giant orchestra, which is another thing that's bringing this sense of intimacy to the work. But one of the advantages we have is that we will be able to put the singers actually in front of the orchestra. It will make things a little bit more difficult for Jeffrey and the musicians in terms of coordination. But what that does is it's going to put the singers as close as possible, really, to the audience, as close as any singer has gotten to audience, in a long time because of the distance that we've had to create because of COVID. So to be able to see every muscle twitch and every shift of gaze while you're looking at these singers as they're going through these experiences, I think is going to be a very rewarding experience for the audience. It's something that I love about doing chamber opera, so I'm really excited about that.
Do you have to take precautions because of COVID? I know that the professional theater companies, Actors Equity, has set up some rules and regulations in Massachusetts that the audience has to be masked and that they have to keep a certain distance. I know that singing requires other rules and regulations. Is the current state of what is permitted and not in Massachusetts changing the scope of how you're going to do this production?
I can speak a little bit from the conceptual side. I don't want to speak too much about the COVID protocols because it's complicated and it is entirely within the hands of Berkshire Opera Festival right now to sort all of the painful details of that out. But what I can say is in many ways for the production team and for the design team, we were not so much thinking about COVID in terms of the restrictions. Rather, we were more inspired by it because division and distance is the language of the opera. It is about people who have been kept apart, who are divided by time, by memory, by trauma. And so as much as it is a beautiful ensemble piece, for me, it's actually sort of like 4 monodramas that just happen to be going on at the same time, in the way that this trauma of captivity that Jim Thompson endured was a horrific experience that he was enduring and that his wife Alice was enduring simultaneously, but alone. So we are presenting it with each character in their own individual space, each of them on sort of an island, set apart from the others, where they can hear and connect with each other, but they can't reach each other, they can't touch. And that was, for me, a fundamental part of the storytelling that came somewhat out of this environment of COVID, where we can all see each other but not actually ever hug. So it's inspired by that, but it is not simply a matter of that's what we have to do because that's what COVID said. It really feels to me like it's the right way to tell this piece. So.
And you're bringing up things, I mean, all of us as artists and creative people were isolated during COVID. So for the three of you, it must be exciting to collaborate again away from Zoom and actually be in a rehearsal studio. And the idea of being in an audience and seeing a performance after a year and a half must be a thrill.
Utterly thrilling. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be back in a rehearsal room with human beings.
I know. So how long does an opera like Glory Denied, how long do you get a chance to rehearse before you go on stage?
It's a pretty fast process. We have about a week of just working through the opera with piano, and then we start putting together the opera with the orchestra and the technical elements in the second week. So all told, it's about 2 weeks.
And in theater, people walk in and they get their script the first day. When you're doing an opera, do the singers know the music and their parts before they walk into rehearsal?
Yes, it's one of the wonderful but also somewhat strange things about the way we do things in opera as compared to theater. If really you want to talk about the difference between opera and musical theater, I think that's it. The fact that everybody should come in memorized and ready to go on day one is sort of our assumption. We are blessed with a fantastic cast of incredible performers, 3 of which have done this piece before, 2 of which have done this piece many, many times, and they're marvelous in these roles, marvelous performers in general. And with a contemporary opera, that's unusual. But even with contemporary opera, when you're doing something that has never been performed ever, the singers are still supposed to walk in knowing their score memorized and ready to go.
So if they've all done it before, how do you find the new element of the production? Because they walk in and you say, well, I did it this way the last time. How do you pull it together so it's fresh and new for the Berkshires?
Every time I do a production, it's fresh and new because you have a different ensemble, a different environment you're working in. In this case in particular, I would be shocked if they had ever done it this way before, because every time I've seen this production done, even though these characters are in very different mental spaces, they're interacting, they're talking to each other, they are at times embracing. There is this physical connection that we are depriving them of, but to the benefit, I think, of the story.
Okay. Lisa, fill us in on how to get tickets and where the theater's located, because as people are listening now, they may want to jump and get tickets before the performance.
Sure. Glory Denied tickets are available now. Actually, so the production is being put on at Simon's Rock, but we're actually selling tickets through the Mahawi box office. So if folks went to mahawi.org, that's MAHAIWE, Mahawi, you could get tickets there. And the nice thing about offering this opera at Simon's Rock is all the parking is free. It's right outside the Daniel Arts Center. So it's going to be really convenient for folks. And it's a beautiful setting.
Now, I know we want to talk more about Glory Denied, but it's one of 3 events that you're producing during the summer seasons. So give us a quick rundown on the other events.
Oh, gosh. Well, after Glory Denied, we're actually hosting a free concert at Edith Wharton's house, The Mount, in Lenox, Massachusetts, and it'll be four people, four singers plus a pianist, and it'll actually be cast members from our production of Falstaff who will be performing. And if you want to reserve a seat at our free concert, you can go to edithwharton.org. And the name of the concert is Much Ado About Shakespeare. And so this concert will be based on the incredible works of William Shakespeare, and it will be hosted by our artistic director, Brian Garman.
And then Falstaff is the big show.
Yeah, we're very excited about Falstaff. Um, that will be performed at the Mehewi Performing Arts Center uh, August 21st, 24th, and 27th. And again, tickets will be available at the Mehewi Performing Arts Center box office, mehewi.org. Um, Parking is considered difficult in Great Barrington, but we have this great map. There are all sorts of parking opportunities in Great Barrington. You just have to know where they are. And we have a map on our website, which you can get through the town of Great Barrington, but it's posted on berkshireoperafestival.org, and lots of free parking opportunities.
And Falstaff is one of the many Shakespearean-inspired operas, and which in some cases have become musicals down the way. So give us a little preview about that.
I can talk a little bit about Falstaff, since it's one of the great comedies of opera. It is just an absolutely hilarious piece that I think the humor of Falstaff lasts to this day. It's based on the Shakespearean character of Sir John Falstaff, who appears in Merry Wives of Windsor. Most of the opera is taken from Merry Wives of Windsor, and it's Verdi's final opera. So basically, an opera that Verdi gets to do and try whatever he wants, with a libretto by Arrigo Boito, who basically convinced Verdi to come out of retirement to write this piece. And just really an incredible cast will perform in the Berkshires. I mean, I'm so excited for our audiences to hear this cast, which features Sebastian Catana, who sang Rigoletto for us a few seasons ago to much acclaim, and people like Tamara Wilson, who have just, sung all across the world. A really star-studded cast. So I'm excited for Berkshire Opera audiences to hear this one.
Actually, Falstaff was the first opera that I saw when I went to work for Houston Grand Opera and Houston Ballet, way back when I was just getting going. And I was working in the box office for covering on a lunch hour, and this person came to the window and they said, my husband wants to go to the Opry tonight and we want to see the Opry. Which one is it? And I said, it's Falstaff. And she said, spell it. And I did. And she goes, oh, that's the opera about the beer. And I had no idea that Falstaff beer was the biggest thing among a certain population in Houston that were coming to the opera house to see an opera about their favorite beer, not realizing, of course, that it was the famous Shakespearean comedy. How do people in the Berkshires and the opera commingle? I mean, opera, you've got occasionally opera being performed at Tanglewood, but really you're the only game in town in terms of opera in the Berkshires, and now in Western Massachusetts and Connecticut, there's only opera in Boston or New York. Are people flocking from all over to see what you're doing?
Absolutely, yes. Because, like you said, we are the only game in town, and we often get a great deal of people coming up from New York City in the summertime, and of course, Tanglewood is, of course, a huge draw. So people come to the Berkshires for the arts in the summertime, And so, which was one of the reasons that our co-founders wanted to reestablish a high quality opera company in the Berkshires. It belongs here. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find are you only doing summer work at this point, or do you think that you'll expand to be year round?
Well, we're always looking to expand and grow. Right now, we offer summer festival, but in the future, there always could be more.
Yeah, and in terms of where your audience comes from, the Berkshires in New York, are they coming from Westfield and Springfield and parts east as well?
Sure. We bring in people from Albany, from Columbia County in New York, down into Westchester County, New York City, and then right through Connecticut, Fairfield County, Litchfield County, even Hartford, and we drop people from Boston as well. So, we really have this corner of the world covered. We have a very knowledgeable audience. They know opera very well,
Yeah.
and they will travel here to see it.
What about people that don't know much about opera that are going to try it out for the first time? What do you recommend that they consider before they obviously get their tickets, but if they wanted to learn more about Falstaff or Glory Denied, do you recommend that they listen to a recording of it or read a script of it? How would you advise somebody say, well, I've never been to the opera before. What should I do?
Sure.
Well, first of all, I would say that going to the opera requires no preparation whatsoever. If I'm going to see an opera for the first time, I'm just going to get my ticket and go.
Yeah.
I'm going to wear what I want. I'm going to go to the show. I'm going to have a great time. That's what we want people who are coming to the opera for the first time to be ready for. Be ready to come and have an incredible moving experience. Having said that, I think that folks can enhance their experience by hearing a bit of the music, by going to the Berkshire Opera Festival website, just, checking out what the production is about. And, we live in a world where there's music everywhere, accessible on YouTube and streaming services, and it's easy to poke around and listen a little bit to excerpts of the piece, like you said you did about Glory Denied, and sort of get an idea for some of the notes that are going to be passing through your ears. And this, if you listen a bit to Falstaff, you'll hear some things where you're like, oh, I remember that part going to the opera. Oh, and this is that really cool part that I heard, and this is coming up, and so it certainly doesn't hurt listening a bit to the music and maybe getting a little bit of that in your mind. But I don't think there's any requirement on folks to do anything before they show up. Just be ready for an incredible experience.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, depending on their age, a lot of people grew up with the Metropolitan Opera broadcasts on Saturday on public radio. And even more during the pandemic, have had the opportunity to stream performances from the Metropolitan Opera, which was kind enough to put its entire inventory, if you want to say, of opera out there free every single night of the week for the last year and a half. So, my personal feeling is that people shouldn't think that there's anything to be afraid of about going to the opera, that they won't understand it or won't like it, because it's basically musical theater, but there's not a lot of dialogue. It's just all sung through. What drew each of you to opera? What got you excited and involved in it?
I would say that what drew me to opera was that it was everything. That I was a person who was rather indecisive about my life and didn't know if I wanted to do literature or theater or music or physics, or I had 1,000 different choices. And then I looked at this opera house and I realized that all of it was happening at the same time in one place. And I could live and do everything simultaneously, especially with, being a director. I have connections to all aspects of the experience. And for me, it was path of least resistance in a way. I chose it because then I didn't have to make a choice.
Exactly. What about you, Jeff?
Opera was the path of most resistance for me. I would say that, opera is just such an incredible art form that, I grew up playing in orchestras. I'm a clarinetist. And as I was further attracted to conducting, opera just kept finding its way in front of me, opportunities to serve as assistant conductor for opera productions, opportunities to become involved just in small ways with an art form that was very quickly becoming, I think, a core part of my DNA as a musician. Like Sarah said, it's got everything. It's got beautiful singing, it's got incredible stories, it's got incredible orchestral music, it's got stage drama and incredible spectacle. So I think there's really something for everyone in opera, and it just takes a little bit of discovery, just dipping your toe in.
Yeah. What draws all of you to the Berkshires? I mean, you're part of this creative economy of Western Massachusetts, and more artistic people are not only living here but they're also working here. What brought the three of you to the Berkshires, and what keeps you here? We'll start with you, Lisa.
Well, the natural beauty of the place is the huge draw for me. I was born and raised in Massachusetts, and I kept gravitating more and more west, and found the Berkshires to be sort of everything that I was looking for. It has a really large arts community that holds such a wide variety of arts, and that was very appealing to me. So no matter what time of year it is, you can find something really very engaging going on. And I'm a hiker, a skier, and a cyclist. And so just getting outside and enjoying the natural beauty is the big draw for me.
And what about you, Sarah?
So I get to be a first timer at the Berkshire Opera Festival this summer, but I have been to the Berkshires for different projects over the years several times. So part of the appeal of this show, besides the really fantastic opera that is Glory Denied, was the idea of coming back to the Berkshires, because I really love the area and have had incredibly wonderful experiences every time I've been there, because, as Lisa said, of the vibrant artistic community there, but also because there's something about the landscape. There's something about that environment that is restorative. It gives back a certain amount of peace, which I think we all need right now. There's something about those big trees that I just can't wait to get back and sit on the grass in front of those gigantic trees and have that be my lunch break, as opposed to bustling hubbub in city.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And Jeffrey?
Yeah, I really share that sentiment. I really look forward to my trip to the Berkshires every summer, and it feels like a vacation. Honestly, I'm working the whole time that I'm there, and I'm working pretty much nonstop the whole time that I'm in the Berkshires, but it really feels like a vacation. And I think one thing that is so special is to be around this community of listeners, audience members who are so open-minded and curious to experience the arts. So often these people are going to something that they've never heard for the first, they're hearing this opera for the first time. We've had a packed house these last few seasons at Berkshire Opera Festival, and I know that many of these people are hearing this music for the first time. Some of them are very experienced listeners and repeat opera goers, but a lot are hearing it for the first time as well. And with Glory Denied, I think most folks will be hearing it for the first time. So we're lucky that we're a part of this. I feel like Berkshire Opera Festival is this cog in a wheel of this artistic community where we have incredible theater, incredible dance, incredible music in the Berkshires. And now we have incredible opera too. How great is that?
It's really great. And unfortunately, we're out of time, but I really hope that everybody will get to one of the two productions at Berkshire Opera Festival this summer. Glory Denied, a contemporary opera about the Vietnam War and the longest person held captive during that period of time. And then switching gear to Falstaff, a comic opera based on Shakespearean classic. Lisa Anderson, thanks for joining us today, along with Sarah and Jeffrey. For more information and for tickets, go to the Mahawi box office in Great Barrington, mahawi.org. Or, Lisa, what is the Berkshire Opera website again?
BerkshireOperaFestival.org.
Great. Jeffrey Larson, Sarah Myers, Lisa Anderson, Berkshire Opera Festival, thanks for joining us. We'll be back with more Artsbeat after these announcements.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Artsbeat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Artsbeat, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. You're either watching us on Westfield Community Programming Channel 15 or listening to us on 89.5 FM WSKB. If you missed a part of today's program or you want to play it again, you can find this and every other Artsbeat archived on YouTube at WSKB Community Radio's YouTube page. We're going back to Barrington Stage in Pittsfield, where a new play, Boca, is about to premiere. We're getting a chance to chat with Boca's playwright, Jessica Provenz, who's written playlets, if you want to call it that, for the 10 by 10 New Play Festival. And when she's not busy writing plays, she's the development director at Barrington Stage, where she's raising money for all the new plays and musicals that Barrington Stage produces and sends not only to audiences in Western New England, but so many of them end up on stages in theaters all over the place, including Broadway. Good morning, Jessica.
Hello, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'm thrilled to get a chance to chat with you. So tell us about this play you're working on right now that you've written called Boca.
Well, and the fact that you say I'm working on it is very, very true. I have a ridiculous schedule, which is I'm a mom. I have a 10-year-old son, so I work at my desk. And you sort of mentioned that I'm raising money for Barrington Stage, and so I'm here from 9:30 to 8:30 every day because we have shows happening. And then I go home and I write until midnight, and then I wake up at 5. So it's like this ridiculous double life that I'm leading. Boca started as a 10-minute play. So Barrington Stage has the 10 by 10 festival every February. And I'm a playwright, and I'm, love writing plays. And I thought, okay, I don't have time to write a play right now, but I do have time to write a 10-minute play. Quite literally, we had one day off last year. I took 2 hours. I wrote a 10-minute play. I submitted it with the other 250 folks. And the fact that my name was on it meant that it got read quickly, which was nice. And Julie was like, I love this play. I had written a play, Mark, that was for two senior actors. And tell me are you familiar with the phrase, the brisket brigade?
I've heard of the Brisket Brigade. I've never seen or read a play about it, but in real life, I've heard about it because when my mother passed away and my father was one of those nice Jewish older guys who his specialty and his attractiveness was he could drive at night, the Brisket Brigade started showing up at his house, and it was one widow after another with a brisket, and he would very graciously accept the brisket and would go right into the trash. But so I knew about that, and I know about Boca, as in Boca Raton, because several of my neighbors winter there. And when they come back in the summer to Western Massachusetts, all they can do is compare Western Massachusetts to Boca. And they'll
say, what way?
In Boca we have this, or in Boca we do that. So I just assume for the Inshore and Geritol set, Boca is sort of like the Garden of Eden.
I mean, actually, I think that's a really good phrase for it. I hadn't thought of it. But what you're talking about with your dad was the kernel of a 10-minute play that I wrote. So I wrote a short play about a woman who shows up at her neighbor's house, and she has been doing this for years now, and she's done messing around. And so she shows up, spoiler alert, with a lasagna and a gun. And she's like, I'm serious. And that play was really fun. It was 10 minutes. It was delightful. People really, really laughed and enjoyed it.
I remember seeing that at the 10 by 10. Now that you mention it, I remember that little playlet and just laughing hysterically. That was so funny.
Thank you. So that was fun. And so Julie Boyd, the artistic director at Barrington Stage, and also my boss, said, we were at a meeting with donors. And she turned to me and she said, oh, I have an idea. Remind me to tell you. And so then later she said, I have this idea. We, Barrington Stage, would like to commission you to write an evening of short plays for senior actors. Is that something you'd want to do? And I, said, hell yeah. So I decided to set it in Boca because I thought, okay, I'm not personally that interested in writing 10 plays that have nothing to do with each other. I would like a through line. I thought, what's an interesting, fun place? Every year, we actually go down to Florida on a fundraising trip. And so I know Florida very well. I have an aunt in Florida. So I sort of grew up going to Boca. And I think exactly what you said, Garden of Eden, it's manicured, it's gated, it's perfect, it's fun. It's like a playground where people can get into trouble. And I've written a play it's 12 short plays of lots of people getting into lots of trouble.
That sounds great. And, people know about Boca is kind of a fantasy to a lot of people because people want to retire, but they want this kind of cool life, and they just assume that Boca has everything that there is to offer. I've never been there, so I don't really know. I've only been to the west coast of Florida, where my father and his entourage had Marco Island, which was kind of like Boca wannabes.
I think you'll come to Boca in August when you see the play, and you'll have a sense of being there. But I think it's a fun playground. It's a slightly, in my world, it's a heightened reality. The grass is always perfect. The weather's always perfect. The tans are always perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but there used to be a morning flight from Hartford to West Palm Beach that one of the airline people used to refer to as the miracle worker flight, because when people checked in at Bradley to get on the plane, there were lots of wheelchairs and walkers and everything else. And somehow as the flight flew over the Carolinas, and everything. They were all miraculously cured. When the flight landed at West Palm Beach, they'd all run off the plane to get to their rental cars, walkers, and wheelchairs left behind. So the flight to Boca was often called the Miracle Worker flight from Bradley. So I would assume that there's a lot of comic intent in your play that has to do with the people of Boca and how they change when they leave their northern climes to go down there.
Well, the whole play takes place in one community. It's a fictional community called the Royal Pompolo, and we never leave it. But they talk about New York all the time. Like, so the play opens and closes with these two guys on a bench. They're always waiting for the valet. Like, they're just always waiting for the valet to come. And they are obsessed with what's happening in New York only by way of comparison. So, they love to talk about how darn cold it is in New York at all times. So I do love the idea. I mean, part of the thing that was fun for me is the gated thing. Florida is big on these communities where you actually have to get in and you have to tell your name, and there's a parking attendant, and they have to allow you in. That was new to me. Every time I go to Florida, I'm always surprised by it. So I liked the idea of being kept in or kept out.
You've got quite the cast assembled for Boca. We've chatted here with Deborah Jo Rupp, but she's one of several Barrington Stage Company veterans who are a part of this production.
Yes.
So I would assume that you've been a part of the casting and the directing and all the other things. You're sitting in on the whole thing.
It's really been so fun because I really do have like a big day job. And it's been like a 100% thrill. My background is as a playwright. I spent 12 years in New York, like pounding the pavement, writing plays and working with a lot of folks. And it's been like a total joy to stop, writing a grant application and instead sit in on a Zoom audition. So yeah, now 4 of the actors were part of the Barrington family already. And those were much more like conversations. Julie Boyd, who's also directing the play, said, what do you think of this person and this person and this person? And I said, I love them all. They're fantastic. So you probably will know some of them. It's Deborah Jo Rupp, Peggy Farr Wilson, who you've seen in the 10 by 10, the redhead.
Yes,
Peggy?
I've seen her. I've actually interviewed her. I've seen several 10 by 10s now, so I've seen a lot of her different kinds of work.
Well, she's been in all of them, and she's very, very flexible with her range, so that's fantastic. One of the things that I did with the play is there's 12 parts. So there's 6 actors and 12 parts. So everybody plays 2 parts. And now this was hard for me, but everybody wanted their 2 parts to be like, they wanted both of them to, everybody kind of wants them both to be really kind of fun and thrilling and something you could sink your teeth into and something really different from the other part they're playing with. So there's lots of accents and, people have different ailments. Like, I'm trying to give people room to play. The other folks are Robert Zuckerman and Kenny Tiger. Both have done the 10 by 10s and other things. Actually, Robert Zuckerman was in If I Forget a couple of years ago. I don't know if you got to see that.
Yeah, and Ken Tiger's a Western Massachusetts-based actor who did a lot of things at Chester and does his own, shows. Was the show cast as you were writing it? So were you writing with actors in mind, or did you write it and then it got cast?
The second. I just started writing. I knew I wanted 6 actors, and they're all seniors. And I actually didn't really write for specific actors. I wrote with people in my life in mind, just thinking about friends, family, who's a good character in your world and putting them on the page.
Yeah.
And now Kenny Tiger did that Stay Please scene with Peggy Farr Wilson. So those 2 I had in mind because they did the scene 2 years ago. So and they were lovely. I mean, it really like touching, which I like. It's meant to be fun, but it's also meant to, stir you a little bit. So part of what's been fun about this whole process is I actually just started writing it in late February. I mean, this has been like fast and furious. Julie said, I'm sure you can appreciate this. She said, I feel like people are going to need to laugh this summer. We really need a comedy. And most of the plays that were being submitted were serious because we all went through a really dark year. So it's been fun to sit at my computer and try to make myself laugh. Has actually been like a good challenge.
What got you into playwriting in the beginning? What drew you towards it?
I mean, we're going to go way back. So when I was like a kid, I was a director. Like I would walk around and direct everything that would, like I went to this camp and I was thrilled because I like won the camp equivalent of the Tony for Best Director. Like I was like one of those kids who was so driven and knew that I was only good at one thing. It wasn't like I could do lots of things. I could tell stories and I thought I could do them as a director. As a child, I decided I was too short to be a good actor. This is like my thinking. So I was like, I'll tell the stories. I won't be on the stage. And that was at like age 10. And so then I went to college and I took a playwriting class. I went to Northwestern. I took a playwriting class on a lark just for fun. Directing was my thing. And that was where I was very serious. Playwriting, I thought, who cares if I'm bad at this? I took a class and I got really lucky. It was a year-long class with this guy named John Logan, who at the time was a struggling Chicago playwright. I don't want to say struggling. He was a rising Chicago playwright. And his big success at the time would be having a show at Victory Garden. One day, John Logan comes to class. This was an amazing moment. He said, I couldn't be here last week. I'm so sorry. I had to fly to Tokyo to meet Oliver Stone and Al Pacino, who are going to make my movie Any Given Sunday, which I have been writing for the past 4 years. Well, John Logan, if you Google him, he's like Mr. Hollywood. I mean, he's written every like James Bond movie, every exciting movie that has like a heart, like he wrote the book for Moulin Rouge that's on Broadway right now. I mean,
right.
He's amazing. So anyway, John Logan liked my play. Like he liked it. And he said, you're really good at this. And he shared it with people. And sometimes it just takes like one person or two people just telling you to keep going, that to kind of make you keep going. So that's how I found playwriting. I mean, I was obsessed with theater as a kid, and I found that I liked writing. When I moved to New York, I wrote and directed a lot. And then I found that was too hard to do multiple hats at the same time. I got into the program at Juilliard as a playwright. And I spent a couple of years there working with Chris Durang and Marcia Norman. And that was a major validation moment for me, feeling like I felt like I won the lottery. I mean, just getting that opportunity. And that is how I found playwriting.
And how many plays do you work on at a time? Or do you go from one play to the next? Or do you have several that you work on at once?
I mean, if you asked me this question 10 years ago, it would have been different. But life happened. I was in New York. I was a playwright. And I ended up having a child and a divorce soon after and moving to the Berkshires, which was not some master plan. It was not some great design. And then I needed to make a living. I needed a job. And I quickly realized that development, for those of you who are very familiar with the Berkshires, there's not a lot of industry here. I quickly realized that there's 800 nonprofits. They all need money. And actually, I had spent a lot of time raising money for my own plays and movies and projects. And so I was like, oh, I could do this. I worked at a school for 3 years in fundraising. And then I took this job 3 years ago at Barrington Stage. It felt like a great fit because suddenly I'm raising money for a theater. And I thought, if I can't have my play on the stage, at least I can help other people put their plays on the stage. I mean, and I had kind of made peace with the fact that or the idea that some of my ambitions, may not happen. And that was really that part of my life. I might have had to, find satisfaction in what I had done and find joy in smaller projects. So I write one play at a time, to answer your question. I write them slowly. I sometimes take years. I have fun with it. Sometimes they sit in my drawer forever. The fact that this happened this way, where Julie said 3 months ago, will you write a play for this summer? What happened was she had that lasagna scene that you remember. She liked it. She said, okay, how's it going? How's the commission going? She said in February. And I said, no, I said, I haven't done anything. I have this job working for you, you're tough. And she said, I would love it. Can you write something? Can you get something on a page? So I spent a weekend, I wrote 30 pages. I handed it to her. She said, okay, can you give me some more? Next weekend, I wrote 10 more pages. And she said, okay, I like the first 30. I don't like the last 10. Let's do it. And the whole play is about 115 pages. And basically since then I've been, when I'm not at one desk, I'm at a different desk. So.
Yeah, I would assume, though, that it's that you have to compartmentalize, because how can you be out there fundraising and writing a play at the same time?
Well, I will say this is like an added bonus, that Barrington Stage's supporters, who are lovely and generous, are like so excited for my play. so raising funds for Boca was like was almost embarrassing, because people would say, well, how could you talk to me about another play? I want to talk about your play. But the two hats, I think we all compartmentalize. I feel like that came with parenting for me, which was, okay, I got to shut the door and know that there's a child on the other side, especially this past year in COVID, where he was like literally on the other side of the door the whole year.
As a playwright, how do you feel when a play goes into production? Because you've done the playlist for the 10 by 10 New Play Festival, and a director says to you, well, we need a rewrite here. We need to fix this. Is it difficult for you to make changes to what you've written, or do you start to see the changes you want to make as you see a play go into rehearsal?
So I love that question. It's actually the opposite. I love rewriting. I could do it forever. It's like never done. It's like a painting and you just never finish. I really enjoy the idea of going back in and tinkering it, making it better and better. I have rewritten like whole acts in a day, so my actors hate this. They hate this. And so your question is less about me and more about them. I get really into it. I love the act of like, okay, we learned that. How do we make it better? It's very hard for me to stop because, if you see something and you think, oh, it could, if only I tweaked it there, it would land even better. How do you stop? But at a certain point, the actors need to learn their lines and do their thing. And these actors, they're all seniors, and they've all let me know repeatedly, get me the damn script.
Let me ask another question, because this straddles playwriting and development. Barrington Stage commissioned this play from you, and Barrington Stage has commissioned other plays, including American Son. What is it? Can you define for people that don't understand what commissioning is and how it works?
Sure. I mean, it's a vote of confidence and a paycheck and a job. So a lot of times when I write, I'm essentially writing for myself, and I'm writing with, I'm writing something that makes me happy, that pleases me, and I'm writing with the hope and the prayer that it's going to make somebody else who puts on plays happy too. But a commission is a job. It's an assignment. And this was an assignment. We want you to write an evening of short plays for senior actors. Go. It is a paycheck, which, in the arts and in writing, is a gift, is rare. You know, it's validating, it's thrilling. I think most writers, certainly myself, have another job, have another way of making an income. So when somebody says, no, I'm going to pay you for the thing that you love most, it doesn't really get much better.
So when you're wearing your fundraising hat and you're raising money because Julie Boyd has commissioned a play, is the assumption that when the play is written, it will be produced? What happens when a play is commissioned and it doesn't meet the standards of a theater? Is that money? Is that like money invested where you get no return, or what happens?
I mean, that's a good question, and I don't know if I know all of the answer. I think sometimes a writer, it's a process. So the commission happens in stages at Barrington Stage. The first stage is an outline. So I think step one is getting on the same page about what the play is about. And so if the theater is not on board with the outline, the writer will be asked to keep working on it. You know, maybe it's a whole different play. I actually think the writer of American Son handed Julie a different script initially, and then she commissioned American Son based on an idea. But sometimes I think that's what happens. The play that the writer is thinking about may not be the play that this theater thinks is the one. So then the next step is after you agree on the essentially 2 pages of this is what I'm going to write, then you give a first draft and then a second draft. So there's several opportunities for the theater to weigh in on what they like. The intent very much is to produce it. I mean, the intent is not to throw away the money, but the intent is...
It's essentially an investment where you want a return on your investment in some way.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know, you're also giving a vote of confidence to an artist who maybe you want to build that relationship with. If it's not going to be this play, maybe it'll be another play. They have located... 10, 12 artists that they love the work, love the voice, and say, yes, give me more. So I think most of the commissions here do happen, certainly, as you said, with the intent that it's going to go forward.
Yeah. Is there a timeline generally? You said that in the case of Boca, you started just a couple of months ago. But when a play is commissioned generally, how long a period of time is there to produce it?
Oh, well, the contract has some elements in it, like once the draft is written, the theater has an option, a period of time before they essentially relinquish their rights. And maybe that's a year. They have a period of time where they basically have first dibs on the play.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't recall if there's a timeline in the contract, but there is a timeline if you want to get paid. So you have to deliver to get the money. I will say sometimes if there's like a Hollywood writer, and we have a couple of those, you know, they're busy with their television shows. You know, it could take a while. And, you know, to actually see the scripts come back. This is faster than I normally work, but I don't know about you, but the pressure of a deadline is a great thing. And just knowing that they started selling tickets and I was still writing it was like shocking to me. So.
Well, anyway, we're out of time here, but I certainly can't wait till Boca arrives on the stage at Barrington Stage coming up. And for details and get tickets, go to the website at Barrington Stage, which is barringtonstageco.org. We've been chatting this morning with Jessica Provenz, who's not only a playwright who's contributed to the 10 by 10 New Play Festival in the past, but she's also Barrington Stage's fundraiser. So she's not only writing scripts by night, raising money by day, and I don't know how you do it all, but you certainly are doing a great job of it.
Well, thank you so much. I hope the folks listening will buy tickets, and then if they're so inclined, they might want to make a gift to Barrington.
And then after that, go to see when it's produced in Boca.
Well, that's another conversation. There's a lot of interest from Florida in this play, which is thrilling.
Jessica,
Yeah.
thanks for joining us this morning. And this wraps
Thank
up
you.
another edition of Artsbeat TV and Radio. If you missed a portion of today's program or you want to catch it again or share it with somebody else, you'll find it on YouTube under WSKB Community Radio's YouTube page. Peter Coles has been our chief engineer this morning. We're broadcasting from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach. We'll see you next Friday, 8 o'clock, here either on Westfield Community Programming Channel 15 or 89.5 FM, WSKB. Have a great weekend.
Good morning, America. It's time to wake up to opportunity. Time to wake up to the most magnificent piece of real estate to hit the market since the good Lord foreclosed on the Garden of Eden. And here to tell you all about it is our very own Boca Girl.
Boca Raton, come down to Boca Raton, where every sky's the bluest you've seen, where all year long the grass remains green, where every beach is clean and pristine. Buy a lot or even two, have we got a lot for you? Boca Raton, come down to Boca Raton, where every vista sparkles and gleams. City beautiful of your dreams.
The city beautiful, a work of art in itself. The city beautiful could be displayed on a shelf. A picture perfect place, a place of grace and space.
A world of seaside sports and leafy malls. A world of highlight courts and concert halls.
A world of boating, hot spring, golf links, tennis,
Newport, Saratoga, Venice. Boca Raton,
you'll have it,
Boca Raton,
you'll love it,
best though not to delay. Come and see the new frontier.
come and be a pioneer.
You'll agree tomorrow's here today in Boca Raton.
Wilson Meisner Friends issuing you an invitation. Put your feet up, close your eyes, and join me on a VIP tour of paradise. There it is, rising up before us like the Emerald City of the legendary Oz himself, the shining Shangri-La of the New World.
Boca Raton, come down to Boca Raton, where everybody's wearing a smile, where everybody's living in style, 'cause everybody's making a pile.
Don't think twice, take our advice, get your slice of paradise.
Boca Raton, come down to Boca Raton, where you can swim and mingle and play, and invest in the USA.
Friends, let me ask you something. You've heard the expression land of opportunity? Well, this is it. The land itself. Up in the Klondike, we shoveled it aside to get at the wealth which it contained. Down here, it is the wealth. God bless America, my friends, 'cause you can buy it, you can sell it, and it can make you rich.
Buy it now, sell it later, and get rich quick. Pick a spot, buy a plot when the spot gets hot. Sell the lot, my friends, you know what you got really rich, really quick. Bound to make a bundle, sure thing. Bound to make a bundle, bound to make a bundle. Just a matter of time. Just a matter of time. Buy today, sell tomorrow, and get rich quick. Don't delay, beg or borrow or come what may. To your sorrow, you'll rue the day that you didn't say, I want to get rich quick. Can't you hear the knocking? Hear that sound? What is that that's knocking? All around, that's opportunity knocking. Every property's prime, and the views are so bright, and the values just climb and climb and climb and climb and climb.
What is life, my friends? I say it is a journey, a road, down which we travel, ever seeking, never satisfied. An endless quest for something different, something better. Onward we go, restlessly reinventing ourselves, searching for something that already lies before us. For in America, the journey is the destination, or it has been until now, until tonight, because the road which I have just described to you will take us someplace so spectacular that finally we can cease our searching, stop our wandering, and be content. Where does it lead? To journey's end. Behold, my friends, Boca